Hey, what's up guys? Brandon here for RC Flight School. As you can see, the topic of the day is crashing. More specifically, how to fix crashes. So I'm going to shoot a little video tutorial on how you can handle a crash like this. Make sure that when you're repairing it, you're doing it the right way, and how to save yourself a lot of money in parts. Now this is going to apply more to foam planes than anything, because if you have a plane that's built out of balsa and it's covered, generally speaking, you crash one of those and you're doing a pretty hefty rebuild project, or you're replacing parts. On a foam plane, we have the special ability to really just kind of fit the puzzle pieces back together in a way that'll still allow it to fly without adding too much weight. Now, if you're one of those people who doesn't like messing around with that, your better option might be to just go get the replacement parts. The beauty of a name brand product like this is the S-Bach from Horizon Hobby, is I can go online or my local hobby store and I could order a new wing, or I could order a new tailpiece or a new fuselage. So you have to look at that and see if it's cost effective, if you want to spend the money, and how much work is involved. This crash looks pretty bad. You got a whole wing off, tail off, nose pieces off, pieces are missing, but I can promise you it'll go back together. It may not look as pretty as it did when it was new, but it'll still fly just fine. So I'm going to give you a little closer look and show you how we can take care of this. Alright, now we got a little closer look. You can see I got a little repair project on my hands. It's not too bad, it looks terrible, but there's not a whole lot of pieces to it, so we did alright. Now if you look at a plane like this, this adds to the complication. This looks like a much bigger project, and it will be. There's a lot more to handle on a biplane like this. We have a lot of rigging to take care of, 2 sets of wings to make sure they're perfectly level, just a lot more going on. Now I will say that, no, I did not crash these planes this bad. I mean, I've flown these plenty, and yes, I've crashed them, but when you're dealing with little light foam planes like this, they'll never really get damaged this bad. This was actually a case where I had put it into a truck, and unfortunately, I let the dog in, and the dog came in and just stepped all over them. So I figured, why not? It's a great opportunity to show you guys how to fix them. I'm not going to do the beast for you guys today because that's a pretty long project. I will fix it and show you what I did, but we'll focus on the S-Bach. It's much easier to fix at this point. So let's take a look at what we need to do. You kind of got to assess your damage ahead of time to see, okay, do I need to buy any parts? Do I need to replace anything? Is there something beyond repair, or is this something I can handle without any extra parts? And this particular fix should be okay. Everything that I need is here. I have all the pieces. I can take the nose cone, or the nose of the plane here, put it back on, and it really aligns right back to where it was. I'm missing a small piece, but I got this little guy here that'll fill it in just perfectly. So the nose goes back on, and then I want to look at the wing, because the wing takes a lot more load, if you will. There's a lot more it's being pushed on more, so we want to make sure that if I'm going to glue this back on, it's going to hold. It's not a dirty break. What a dirty break is a break where you've lost pieces in the seam. It's not a perfect seam. A clean break, it's like a puzzle piece. I can stick it back in here and it'll almost hold itself in place. And this one is. You can see I can stick it in there to actually hold itself in pretty well. So I know that once I glue it, this thing will be good for flight again. I'm going to turn it around and take a look at the tail. We ripped our elevator, or a horizontal stab here, got ripped off, but that should be easy enough to glue back on. Our elevator itself took a little rip between the 2 halves, so there's a tear right in the middle here. I'm going to have to reinforce that a little bit to make sure that I get solid control. And then it looks like our rudder just got ripped right out of the top. It's not even damaged, it just has to be glued like so, and that will be good as new. So let's start with the wing. This will be the easiest for you guys to see. Our weapon of choice is foam safe CA glue. This is also called odorless CA glue. You can buy that at your local hobby shop. It's not like normal CA glue. It's not like normal super glue. It's a special kind just for foam. If you throw normal super glue on your foam plane, it'll just eat away at the foam and it won't work at all. Now because it's foam safe, it takes a lot longer to set up, to cure. So I went ahead and I got some of this stuff. It's called kicker or accelerator. It's just a little spray. You spray it on your glue joint and it cures it within seconds, so there's no waiting. This is really handy, especially when you're holding pieces of your plane in place and you don't want to sit there for 10 minutes hoping that it stays straight. So we got our only two tools that we'll really need for this. Let's start with the wing half here. So again, eye it up, look at your joint, make sure that if you stick it in here, you got a nice solid surface for the glue to stick to. We don't want to fill in missing pieces of foam with glue. That's not going to be very strong. This one broke very cleanly, so we're in luck here. What I'm going to do is look at the foam joint get this a little closer so you guys can see it. You can see right here is my foam joint where it broke away, and that's what I'm going to apply the glue to. So we'll just put a little bit on there. It doesn't take a whole lot. You just want enough that when you push it on, it squishes the glue a little bit and it fills in the seam. We don't want to gob it on and have it running all over the place. And you don't want to use so much that it goes into places where you don't want it. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come into my store with stuff they've attempted to fix and they seized up a servo or ruined their radio because the glue ran inside the plane. Okay, so I've applied the glue, and now all I'm doing is checking the fitment. I'm pushing this wing in real hard to make sure that I got good contact with my glue. And then we want to take a look at the front of the plane to make sure that the wing is perfectly level across the top. I don't want my wing halves sagging down on me. The plane would fly terribly. In the same way, we want to make sure that looking at it from the top, it's not sagging down or has any kind of bend to it away from the original design. Once you're happy with it, you can spray it with the accelerator or the kicker, and that's what I will be doing. I'm going to take one last look at the wing here, make sure I'm happy with it. Take your spray, just give it a little mist. I blow on it a little bit. It helps work in the kicker to the glue joint, especially if it's kind of tucked away. And we'll just let that sit for just a moment to make sure that it's cured before I handle it too much. And really, that's all it should take. It's feeling pretty strong. I'm not going to test it as of yet. I'm going to let that glue have a chance to fully cure. But it's held in place enough for me so I can go ahead and fix the rest of the plane. Just double checking the glue joint. Again, you want to keep an eye on what you've done. Don't just assume that it worked out well. I can see that. I looked on the bottom and I had a little separation, and I don't like that. So I'm pushing that back in, and I'm going to go ahead and apply just a little bit more glue to that. This will help stiffen the wing up too, so it won't flex on that bad joint. Give it a little spray. Love the kicker. Kicker is a huge, huge help when you're fixing a plane, especially this kind of foam setup. Okay, those look good. Let's go to the nose piece now. Now, because this thing holds obviously all the power of the plane, the motor's up front here, the weight of the motor, and the thrust the motor's generating, we really want to make sure we do a good job here. You don't want to cheap out on the nose because A, it won't last long if you have hard landings, and B, you're going to have a terrible flying plane if you're not making sure it's straight. So when I say straight, I'm talking about thrust angle. So let me show you an extreme example. If I glued it on and the nose was like that, that'd be a terrible thrust angle. Or like that, or from this side, if I glued it on like that or like that. So we have to be real careful to make sure it's as straight as possible. Now, most planes will have a thrust angle built into it. The way they design it is they'll put a little thrust angle into it. This one doesn't look like it has much, maybe 1 degree to the right. And the reason they do that is it helps counteract the torque of the prop. So generally speaking, you may see a little bit of thrust angle to the right and maybe down, but it depends on the plane. This one is fairly straight, a little to the right, if any. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm gluing it. Let's go ahead and get our glue out. Again, just cover the tear on the foam. And I'm just going to do this piece. I'm going to save that separate piece, this little extra, for later. I don't want to have to hold 6 different things at a time. And I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom of the battery tray here because I see that was glued on. That will help hold it in place. So we stick this on best we can. This is almost a perfect fit from the original. And you really just kind of have to mess with it until you get it right where you like it. I can see I'm going to have to reinforce this one a bit. The nose got crushed just a touch, and so we've lost some of that strength that the foam provided. And again, I'm looking at my thrust angle here both ways. Looking at it straight on like so, and from the side, nice and straight. We definitely don't want any a thrust angle pointing upward or to the left. That's the worst you can do. So if you have to have any, or if it does have any, you want it to the right and down. Push the battery tray down in there. I see that was sticking up. That really helps hold it. It's almost like a bulkhead for it. Okay, the glue's setting up pretty quickly. I'm going to give it a spray though to help stiffen it. Actually, before I do that, let's do this. Here's another great tip. If you got a joint like this and it doesn't feel strong, you don't think it's going to be strong enough, it may look a little unsightly, but you can put a bead of glue on the outside and inside of the tear line. So I'm going to put a little bit through here to help beef it up a little bit. At this point, I'm not too worried about looks. As long as my plane flies true, who cares, right? If you're someone that cares that much about looks, that's why they offer replacement parts. There's no shame in replacing the part, especially if you think it's too damaged. Okay, so I've added some glue to the outside, and now we can spray it. You can see that the nose is holding itself on just fine. I got one little tiny piece to put on there. I'll do that later, so you guys don't have to watch. That's not very fun. We can focus on the tail now. I'll do the horizontal stabilizer first. When we're re-gluing something, especially something as important as the control surfaces, we want to make sure that it's level to the rest of the plane. So we look at how the wings are level. If I turn it around and look at the elevator, you can see how off that is right now. I want to make sure that when I have it glued on, it's just like that, perfectly level. Not like this, not like this. It's got to be nice and even. And then looking at it from this standpoint, we want to make sure that it's not pitching this way or this way. You want to be perfectly level with the wings. If you want a perfect measurement, you measure from here to here, and on the other side, from here to here, and they should be the exact same distance. That's how you know that you got it set up straight. So I'll eye that up, I'll tack it on off camera, and then we'll do the rudder.